Good evening. This is a meeting of the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. The time is 7:01 and the date is January 8, 2013. At this point, I will call the meeting to order. The board consists of 5 members and 2 alternates. The alternates taking full part in the discussions and becoming a voting member in the absence of a member or when a member abstains for conflict of interest. Present tonight are Mr. Greg Lavelle, Lisa Carson, Joan Krajnansky, and Kay Towsley is the alternate who will be the regular member tonight for voting, and Mr. Thomas Rapp. And I'm John Golsey, acting chair. Also present are zoning administrator, Mr. John Paskey, and secretary, Mr. Paul Eschenbacher. The board operates according to the following procedure. The chair will name and describe the case. The zoning administrator or secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Then anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard, followed by anyone who is wishing to speak in general comment will be heard, and finally anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be heard. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding summary or rebuttal remarks. Then testimony will be closed from the floor. The board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code Section 230703B, the board has the power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, the spirit of the code is observed, public safety and welfare are secured, and substantial justice is done. And according to Athens City Code Section 230710C, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board finds, based on direct specific findings of fact, that each of the following conditions has been supported. Number 1, practical difficulty and undue hardship. Because of exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. Number 2, exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intent use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. Number 3, preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. Number 5, absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. 6, not of a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of the said property for which variance is sought, one or the other or in combination, is not of so general or recurrent of a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. Any person, resident, or officer department, or appointed body of the City of Athens, aggrieved by a decision of the board, may petition the Athens County Court of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the board to the applicant. We have 3 cases tonight, and the cases are number 1, and we are going to hear the cases in this order. Case number 12-18V, 55 Hospital Drive. Case number 2, 12-19V, 363 Richland Avenue. And case number 12-20V, 46 North Lancaster Street. The board is required to take testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak concerning any item on the agenda, please stand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you will present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please sit.
I got it.
Okay, case number 1. Case is number 1218V, zone is B3, and the address is 55 Hospital Drive. And I'm going to read the description here. The appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 230313I2D to allow 4 directional signs, 21 square feet in area and 12 feet in height, 1 directional sign, 14 square feet in area and 9 feet in height, 3 directional signs, 6 square feet in area and 4 feet in height, 4 directional signs, 20 square feet in area and 5 feet in height, and 1 directional sign, 45 square feet in area and 9 feet in height, and 1 more, 40 square feet in area and 8 feet in height, where directional signs can be a maximum of 3 square feet in area and no more than 3 feet in height. I think in summary, they're requesting for 14 signs ranging from 6 to 45 square feet in area and ranging in height from 4 to 12 feet. Mr. Reichenbacher, you have any comments on this?
I have nothing to add. It seems pretty self-explanatory, so if you have any questions.
Okay, basically they are replacing the signs by...
We're replacing existing directional signs with that guide, the plans that I gave you earlier.
Right.
You can see from each page where they're going to be and what is going to be said on each one.
Yeah, everyone has seen on the board. Okay. All right, at this point, I'm going to ask the appellant, is the Advanced Sign Group?
Yes,
Would you please, you can either sit over there or by the podium, whichever is more comfortable.
doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'll go over.
Okay, please state your name and address for the records.
Bob McCullum, I'm with Advanced Sign Group at 55 Wilcott Avenue in Columbus, Ohio, 43228. And again, I'm here requesting a variance. We are simply replacing the existing signs in kind, the exception being colors. They want to make it a more corporate. Oblenis has gone through a rebranding of their corporate logo. As you can see, the oak tree and so forth. There will be, we've already been permitted 2 very nice looking wall signs. It'll be channel letters. It'll say the hospital with the oak tree. I guess that's what
Right.
that's supposed to be. And one important thing they want to do is, as you can see, there's been the word emergency at the top of some of these signs, and they've had difficulty with people coming in trying to find the emergency room. So one of the wayfinding things, as you can see at the top of some of them, is getting them back around to the emergency area of the hospital. Other than that, it's simply just changing square footage per square footage. They will be internally illuminated. However, it's an aluminum background with routed out copy, so the only thing that will illuminate will be the copy. The background will not illuminate. And then the taller signs that are like flagged, those are all non-illuminated. So the parking lot, it's kind of in the parking area. And then the smaller shipping, receiving, employee parking are all non-illuminated as well.
I just had a quick comment.
Sure.
I've been in Athens for, I don't know, many years and not been to the hospital that often. I was looking for building 55 and I had a hell of a time finding it this morning.
All the more reason for wayfinding.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is those numbers going to be there somewhere too? 55, 65, and 75? There are 3 buildings, I believe.
On the buildings themselves, that could be something
Yeah.
that they take a look
I
at.
only saw it when I got close to there.
Yeah, and I would like to see them put something illuminated up there as you're driving in,
Right.
so you could see that. But that would be just wall signage that probably wouldn't require variance, but I'll definitely bring that to their attention. 'Cause it's always great to hear, feedback on things like that.
Right. Any questions?
Well, I have a question maybe for the code administration. On this one sheet, and I noticed this sign when I was there, there's this large sign, I think it has to do with the pharmacy. It's a very large sign. Maybe you might want to look at it. I was just wondering how it fit in with this whole scheme.
The temporary one that's out there?
Yes.
It doesn't, and they got a temporary sign permit for that a while
Okay.
back to do that,
And
and it's
that's
not part of
within the
this.
size limits? It just looked exceptionally large. If these other ones we were giving them a variance for, even though they're more or less grandfathered, but not exactly.
50 square foot. I believe that was right where that one was at, so.
Okay.
I remember contacting them about that.
Seemed to be much larger than the other signs,
So-
and seemed to be much larger than the other signs.
I'll look into that.
That's a banner I think they put up.
Right, it's a
Yeah.
temporary one. I know I did say something to them, and I thought they submitted for a
But it's
permit.
on post, so it
Right.
may be a banner, but it's like,
Yeah, they put that up. Well, it's actually probably been up longer than the temporary sign should be, so I'll follow up on that one.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I would just like to add that, that as we've done a few others, when they originally put these signs up, they were permissible in our old code back prior to 2001, before that part of the sign ordinance was changed. And these are just a change out of the existing ones, but they do not meet our current code. So that's why we're here requesting a variance for it.
Oh, that's right. I thought everybody would agree. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this sign proposal? Or anyone who wants to make a general comment? Or anyone who wants to speak against this proposal? No? Okay, thanks. Now, we need to get a motion on this case.
I move that we grant the appellant of case 12-18V, 55 Hospital Drive, Zone B3, that the request for the variance of ACC 23.03.13I2D to allow all for the already mentioned signage changes.
Very good, 14 signs. Second. Okay. Any discussions before we go to the findings? Practical difficulty and undue hardship. Again, I'm not going to read because I just read earlier, but I think if we do not grant this variance, it's going to create a hardship to have a better signage for the facility. You all agree?
I'd agree.
Okay. Special circumstances, this would be one place that you do want to have, directional signs. And again, we are just replacing with something better. Preservation of equal property rights. This is unique to that campus over there. So I don't think, I don't want to be just giving all the details, but you all agree?
Agreed.
Minimum variance.
Yes, they're just changing the existing signage.
Right. Absence of detriment?
No, the signs are already in place.
Yes.
Yeah.
No one's complaining.
In fact, if we don't have the signs, there might be some detriment. And not of a general nature.
Yes, it's no, not of a general nature.
Okay. We're starting with you, Kay, from,
I vote to approve.
Yes.
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 and I vote yes as well. You got your variance.
Thank you.
Case number 2 It's case 12-19V, 363 Richland Avenue, and the appellant is Hallmark University Housing LLC appellant. Appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 2310 Table B Office Street parking requirements to allow a multi-unit apartment complex to have 829 parking spaces where 856 parking spaces or one per permitted occupant is minimum requirement. Mr. Eichenbacher?
Again, I really don't have anything to add, so if you have questions, if you read the letter, you saw the reason why they lost some of the spaces, so.
I had a couple of side questions. If would you know, would the code office know at any given time how many people are living there?
Yeah.
Is there an automatic reporting?
Well, we don't necessarily know exact numbers of who there, just how many are permitted.
How many is permitted.
Okay.
They've been in the 90% occupancy range pretty much since it was built. So-
And a hypothetical question, if they come and say, for this period of time, we are going to only have 829 tenants, would that be sufficient? Would satisfy the parking requirement for that period?
Meaning that they'll eventually put new ones in? Or?
No, I mean, they say for the next 3 years, we are going to have only 829 people.
I'm not quite sure we can deal with such
Yeah,
hypotheticals. and
so you're asking if we would be reducing their occupancy?
Yeah, I mean, if they do, so, in that situation,
Well, if that was the situation, they wouldn't be here for a variance. I mean, we just
I know,
we'd
I know.
reduce it
That's
to
what I'm saying,
829. So that's why they're here,
Okay.
to get the variance for the lack
For
of
the- for
parking.
the-
Now they're, what is it, 829, 30,
27.
27 short, and they did lose 37 spaces over the edge of
because
the hill.
they argue over there that, this has never been full, so, anyway. Any questions for the code office? Okay, sir, if you'd like to introduce yourself and your address.
Hi, I'm Rick Kirk with Hallmark University Housing, 150 East Broad Street. I'm the builder and developer of the Summit. And I brought an illustration here, which I'm happy to bring closer if it helps so you can see. But what happened was when we built it, we were in compliance. We had one space per bed. Over the past several years in the wet weather, we're up on top of the hill and along this side of the property. It's a very it's all steep slope, but we lost the purple parking spaces here, and the soil slipped and we lost several spaces there. At the time, we just made the repair and kept on operating because we had always had plenty of extra spaces to operate the property. In fact, today we talked to the property manager, and she confirmed that on a typical day we'll have as many as 70 vacant parking spaces, and we're actually 98.1% occupied now. So we have quite a few, just to give you a reason, we have quite a few international students that don't have cars, so that's been our resident makeup for the past several years. So the property functions well. You may know that we have a bus service up there that has worked very well for us, and I think it's also been a nice benefit for the city and helped us reduce some of your subsidy. In any case, we'd like to leave the property as is, but our request for a variance is to leave it as is. Without the request, we'd have to add back those 27 spaces, and there's a very limited area of property that we own that we could do that. So we have illustrated one area that we could add some spaces. We actually, when we built the property, we bought one of the houses on Greenbrier, and we tore it down and we graded this area off. So one of the areas that we could potentially add spaces would be on that lot, but it would be a great hardship to the neighbors up there. You can see from this photograph, and if you can, tell me if I need to bring it closer, but we've got in red, there's a very nice existing evergreen tree line up there that would have to be torn down to add these spaces, in addition to the grading that would have to be required up there. So it certainly would change the landscape of our bordering properties and would affect the neighbors up there on Greenbrier. And we'd argue that these spaces are not needed anyhow. So we'd like to leave the property as is and have you give us a variance and let us go on our merry way.
Is the number 829 that you have now,
Yes.
includes the visitor parking and also handicap and
Handicap,
everything?
yes.
Okay.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
the total number. Now, let's say in a couple of years, you have, 856 occupants that they all have cars.
That's a possibility, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I've been a developer of housing for decades, and I've never had that experience. In fact, this particular project has more parking spaces per bed than any that I've ever done. Most times I get in the .75 per bedroom. And if it was multifamily apartments, you have one space per unit or two spaces per unit, and my guess is that's how the code is typically put together. So we have ample spaces for the property to function. It's really a fallacy that everybody has a car because they're college students, and there's always a few that don't have cars. And we just finished a project in Cincinnati this past year. We have .6 spaces per bed, and there's not a complaint from anyone. So anyhow, we'd like to leave it as is. Otherwise, we'd have to go out and tear down the trees and disrupt the project's built out, and we think it looks pretty good as is, and hopefully you'll think the same as I do.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a
John?
question for
Sure.
Mr. Kirk. In this letter that was presented to the board, it states another option for putting in parking, and that would be down by the Richland Avenue entrance. And so why are you not considering that? And then you wouldn't have to be such a bad neighbor.
Well, that would be down here in an area that's between the two, down by the Coates Run Creek. That's a rounded, sloped area that was difficult to grade in the first place, but that doesn't get us in compliance. We need really both of these places to get us back to the 27 spaces. So
So
that's
what you're
part-
saying is you would develop both of those spaces?
Yes, we'd have to.
How many spaces would you be able to place near the Richland Avenue entrance?
Ryan would have to help me with that.
Would you please just state your name and address, please?
Yeah.
Ryan Pearson with the Edge Group, land planning landscape architect, and I've worked on the project since day one. My personal opinion is that the spaces in the bottom of the hill would clearly just be there to meet code. You would still have to walk up the hill. I don't know that they would ever be used by residents at the top of the hill. The spaces up here near the Greenbrier residence obviously would be usable spaces, and people, I do believe people would use those spaces before they would use the spaces out on the furthest point of what they're calling the guest parking. We can get 20 spaces at the top of the hill, and we're not exactly sure. I've shown about 18 spaces down at the bottom of the hill, but the parking lot is still at a 10% graded slope, and there were some trees saved along this property line that would all have to go because we have 65 to 70 feet from the curb on our drive coming up from Richland to the property line, and then you need a 10-foot setback off of that. That would all have to be graded out. It would, you would remove every tree along that property line. And again, I just don't think it's practical because I don't think anybody's going to use the spaces. I think it would be a detriment to the community.
So in both of those, you're going to remove
Tree vegetation.
old trees.
And it's going to take, it's a steep slope, and it's going to take a lot of grading down at the bottom of the hill as well. The other thing is there's really no place to take the soil at this point. So since the project is built out, it would have to be hauled at some point, most likely off-site. And I don't know where that would be, but then you have truck traffic on the public roads. And
I guess I would have a question about the stability of the hillside. I remember when this project was proposed and presented to the Planning Commission, there was a lot of questions about slippage, and now we have slippage.
Right.
So will there be more slippage? I mean, you're coming to us for a solution to your problem. And what were the core samples? What were the engineering studies? What did they say? I mean, is this just a freak, or is this going to happen again and again?
We've been through several cycles out here of winters now. I would say this is our fourth. But the grading along here was more aggressive initially. The slope grade was, yes, I want to say it was in a 2-to-1. And then when we rebuilt it, we built it at a 3-to-1. So I think most of the areas on site are now in a 3-to-1, the lower slope condition. So we think when we've had failures in the past, they've been in the 2-to-1 areas. So I don't know what this would need to be over here, Ryan.
Basically, the way that I studied it and graded it out, it would be more like a 1.5-to-1 at the very top. It's not really holding any structure above it. It's just holding the peak of the hill. And then I went to the 2-to-1 along Greenbrier Drive in order to get that parking lot in, which essentially means this would all be graded out all the way down to I would think, the Greenbrier Drive, not curb edge, but the edge of the drive.
So you're saying that's also a 2-to-1, like the side of the slope that's slipped already?
Yeah, and if you look at the entire site plan, I think there's 2.5-to-1 was, I think, that magic number. I'm not saying that couldn't get to 2.5-to-1 in order to get that to work. We didn't study it that far at this point. But as far as...
But now you have vegetation in there that's holding it in place, so we remove that. So
I'm comfortable in saying that we can get that parking on top of that hill and be within code with our setbacks and get it to grade out structurally.
What about some stabilizing situations near the slippage area, which would then take us back to the original situation? I mean, could you not go in and stabilize some of that area and reuse that area?
They tried once.
we did.
I heard multiple times.
Multiple times, yeah.
We spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars regrading here in the last several years, trying to. So our solution finally was, rather than rebuilding, let's cut it to a lower slope here, and so what we've had has been working.
I can't speak for the Engineering and Public Works Department, but I was not aware of the lower level parking area proposal, and I probably have a feeling that Andy Stone would maybe be in opposition to that down along Coates Run. If there was slippage, that would block the creek. That could be a problem on that lower lot, and with the proposed renovation of Richland Avenue in the near future. So that could be an issue, just
So
throwing
when
it
you
out
say the
there.
lower lot, you're talking down by the entrance at Richland Avenue?
Yeah, I'm not so sure that maybe be a viable option. I don't know.
So then, if that isn't, then they still don't have enough,
That's why they're here.
even if they
Even
did
still.
both, if so that they can't do the lower one, then,
They're still short, correct.
so maybe a few more $1,000 to repair the slip. I don't know. It just sounds very, I mean, if we're,
So engineers and architects no longer can guarantee that there will be no slippage, because that was the impression that a lot of people in the community had when that project was being proposed, that they were concerned about, the slippage, and they said, oh, no, there's not going to be any slippage. But that's a possibility still, right, in the 21st century.
Yes, sir. I don't know of any guarantees in life.
When did the slip happen?
It was probably a year ago.
And
It was in March, actually, a year ago, March.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You may have a chance to come back again. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone wishing to speak in general comment? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition?
I'm sort of the second and third.
Okay, that's fine.
I need to see the pictures.
just so you know, we've been working on this a long time, but going up there driving around counting 850 parking spaces, we did it like 4 times and came up with different numbers every time. So that's why we were never able to.
again in the future, which it probably will, they'd have to come back. I'd like to be able to force them to come back so that we could say, now you're going to have to reduce the number of bedrooms. Rather than granted the variance, it stays, no matter how much it's they can keep.
That's what I was trying to say.
And just renew it
I just want to have
every
it
2
at
years.
29, yeah.
Yeah. You know, a temporary use permit for a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
That would be an alternate solution, saying no to the variance.
This is after it's split.
For them. Right.
well, yeah, but I don't want to hassle them and have to come back. We just wouldn't have him come back to the podium and give him the suggestion of what if we drop this request?
Come up and it's up to the right.
Have you ever considered a conditional use permit?
Would you please state your name and address?
Stephanie Goldsberry, 20 North May Avenue, Athens, Ohio. I've stood before this group many times in dealing with parking, because I firmly believe in having the numbers that you're supposed to have. I realize there are problems that they have here, and my husband and I have a property that would be directly affected by putting where the extra what they were talking about, I feel, because I know we lived through the construction, very nervous, and the slips and everything else, and I had tenants that had to live through things for a year that fortunately stayed because it was noisy. But, so I've got mixed feelings about that. I guess, I'm sure it would cost lots of money to support that back parking that they've lost. I know lots of places that have had to do those kind of things. Of course, that's done by the state and everything else, where there's bad slips and you have to deal with them. I'd hate to say, put one of your buildings down, but that's probably how I would feel, because I think that they should have to have the kind of parking that is required by the code. So, as I said, I have a very mixed situation on here. I would not like to see the grading done where they were talking about to put the overflow that they need. I think it would be very detrimental to anybody on Greenbrier and below. I don't think I'd feel assured, and I know he said there are no promises, there couldn't be slips, and we've seen too many there already.
All right, that's the issue.
So, my feeling is use a building for something else, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition? Okay, we close the discussion from the floor. Would you like to come back and, yes, if you have a chance to come back and
The only thing I might add is that if the spaces that have fallen off the side of the hill already a couple of times, maybe more, if they cannot be built back where they are, I think where we're coming in is saying that by code, we can put spaces at the top of that hill and still meet code within our property rights. We don't want to do that. We don't want to affect the neighbors on Greenbrier.
okay.
Well, excuse me, but you said you have to use both of those spaces you initially recommended, the lower and the upper, to meet the code requirement for parking.
At this point, we do believe that that's where we would have to meet parking
Okay.
with both of those spaces.
And I'm just speculating on the lower level. I don't know. It would take.
The
Andy.
problem. The
Okay,
problem
I
when
just
we
wanted to
looked-
clarify that.
The
That's
problem
all.
when we looked at it is there's only so many developable pieces left close to the top of the hill or close to the front doors of units. That would be the only place that is left on the site, up by the Greenbrier residence.
And how many units are there in total?
Total number of units is 239. Total number of beds is 856. But we could still comply with code with 856 with a parking lot at the top of the hill. I think that's the problem that we're wrestling with right now. That's why we're asking for a variance on parking. I mean, currently, even without the 35 spaces that have fallen off the side, there's still 40 to 70 extra spaces that are not used within that guest lot is the number that we've heard.
I have a question, but I don't know who it should be directed to. If we grant the variance and then down the road,
They would be back again. I know
then
if there's
come
another
back
slip.
again If they fill up with all the students get cars, and then what
Oh.
happens?
If you grant the
they don't,
variance,
in fact, have enough parking places?
if you grant the variance, then if everybody there had a car, then they would be short. I thought you were gonna ask if they had another
What would
slip.
happen
And
then?
Well, in addition to that, I would say at any given time, 5% of the people have guests. That would be extra 40 cars that need to be parked there.
They would be inconvenienced.
But they would have no recourse.
Not if you've granted the variance. I mean, you said it's okay for them to be this many spaces short
Yeah.
of what the requirement is.
They're going to be parking somewhere else.
And when I look at parking ratios, if I have a unit or a building that has 6 beds in it or 12 beds, I can see having 1 space per bedroom. Because more than likely you need at least 99% of those spaces, because those people all have cars. When you spread it out over 856 beds, it's a little bit of a different animal. I mean,
Yeah, the probability changes, the equation changes for when you have that many number of units, so. But still, we have a rule in Athens of 1 per 1 bed.
sure.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So really, you feel that you do have the property to develop the parking, to meet the code. It's just a matter of spending the money to do so. You really would need to be here, is that correct?
That's correct.
But you want to do the alternative and save the trees, save the green space, what I would like to see happen as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then, lastly, would you consider a conditional use or a temporary use permit for such parking as to such a time that if there is further slips that occur up there, then we might have to discuss eliminating residential housing
Well,
to
I
meet.
think the way we've written this is that we would be agreeing upon the amount of spaces that are there right now, so that if anything else slipped, then the property wouldn't be in compliance once again. So we would have to come back before you and ask for either a variance or fix the parking that slipped the second time after the variance. But I think what we're saying is that the 27 spaces are not being used now. They haven't been used. It's at 98% occupancy, and there's 40 to 70 spaces that are just sitting vacant at all times.
Excuse me, on an average day is what I think what you said, or a typical day.
Right.
What about a less typical day?
Football game.
Yeah.
Well, we're not talking about an average day or a typical day or an unusual day. We're talking about the code day. And the code day is the one-on-one.
Sure.
So you can either do it the expensive way and not be here at all,
That's right.
or you can do it the green way and come and ask us for a variance. And I'm throwing another suggestion on the table of we grant you a temporary use for what you're asking, and then if further slips happen, then we need to see each other again.
Come back and remediate.
I think that's already inherent. I think if you're willing to give us a variance, that's just the.
Well, there's a difference between a variance and a temporary use or a conditional
Yeah,
use.
we can't do temporary. And I have to say, the reason we're here in the first place is because we just have been refinancing, and we had a lender come out and do a count. And they're the ones that prompted us to come here, because I didn't realize we weren't in compliance. So we borrow money here, so our lender has to have either a variance or we have to go get in compliance. So we couldn't do that. And all I can say is on the what-ifs in the future, if something happens, we just have to come back for and whatever that condition is. We're just trying to ask.
Well, that's
Financial issues, we don't consider.
yeah.
the hardship.
We don't consider that the bank's asking you for a variance to do this.
Well, conditional, with what you said, conditional, no, that wouldn't.
They wouldn't accept. That wouldn't be acceptable
No,
to the
sir.
bank,
No,
which that's too bad, because now you're going to take away the trees to satisfy your parking, and then if it slips again, we've lost the trees and the parking.
That's a potential.
And maybe.
That's a very real potential, especially if last year it slipped and it was one of our driest years. Well, they said it was the driest year since the recording of records. 100-year records. It was the driest year we've had in the continental United States, other than Alaska. No further questions.
What would it take to change codes so that these very large developments that have huge amounts of parking spaces have a different ratio than the one-to-one?
We have, Paul Logan and I have briefly discussed that. We haven't come with any proposals on the large projects like this one, Palmer Place, looking at possibly a 75%, and I'm throwing numbers out because we have not solidified this. And then the 25% that you wouldn't have to have would be a park or a green space over and above your lot coverage that you're required to have anyways, because we have seen these large massive parking lots that are sitting at 60-70% use right now. But as it is, the code is 1-to-1. So, but that's just discussions. I don't know if you've heard at the Planning Commission, we are going through each section of our code right now in the zoning, starting with the R sections, re-looking at everything. So I don't know where this will go, if that'll even be brought up, but.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have one further question to state as if, not to you.
Oh, all right.
If Stephanie was there. That's okay.
Well, I have a question, or I would have.
Okay, we can make a comment and then I'll ask you a question.
Yeah, I would like to look at the pictures.
Well, I agree that parking lots are not always used to the max, because I have a property where there's plenty of parking for all my tenants, and there's always plenty of parking. Now, I don't fill them to the hilt either. And, I think there are some possible options to correct the situation here if they wanted to, but I understand they want to maximize because they've got a lot of money in it. I would rather see the legislation changed than to see this kind of thing built where it could slip again. And I think they are correct that they don't have all the parking, because also look at Palmer, and they've got way more than they need. And you see that empty, just like John said. So I'd much rather see an adjustment in the legislation, because it used to be one per apartment. And I had owned a building down on North Court where we had plenty of parking. We had 3 parking places for 4-bedroom apartments, which we chose to do on our own. We could have rented them out separately, but we didn't. And I said, if the 4th one needed it, they need to rent it because we were grandfathered in. So, I'd much rather see a legislative change. What was your question?
Well, the legislative change would be great, but
I know.
you and I both know that that's going to take years.
Doesn't have to.
So my immediate question is, do you want to see trees left up there, or do you want to
I
see less
absolutely
parking
do,
spaces?
but I also don't want to have a president sent in this about the parking issue. You're caught between 2 different things. Yes, I don't want that done, but I also don't want to see everybody else that has a big parking lot want to come in and change things.
Well, if you look at this drawing, they're not removing all of the trees.
I don't care. I don't want them to touch that.
I don't blame you. I'm just saying that. I didn't realize that. I thought
Those
trees were
that are
getting
shown-
wiped.
Those trees that are shown were based on a survey, and those would be the trees to be removed.
Right, the ones within this, the existing mature trees to be removed in here, but there still would be, it appears, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trees still there, whatever, I don't know. Just to clarify that point.
How
But
many hundreds of trees they was taken out to put this project?
John, I
in?
didn't
So
want to
6,
bring
7
that up.
after one, so
Just, I'm sure a lot
So
of
let's
people
not
know.
So you have no
Trees.
preference, parking as it is or trees, if you had to choose?
I'm sorry, parking
Parking as it is or trees?
I'm concerned what's going to happen if they do that. I'm very concerned because I have a building below it. I just don't want to see more slips. So I would stand up here and try to stand for the city doing something about changing the legislation. Sincerely would, because I think that there could be some formula that could work for everybody on that. Because I don't know how realistic 1 per bedroom really is. Because like they said, a lot of people don't have cars, choose not to anymore. And if it comes to the point that they can't even meet that requirement, they need to close down a building or change the use of it or make the bedrooms bigger so that everybody has fewer in a unit. There are other solutions. Not ones you want to take necessarily, but I think there's other ones than causing the removal of trees and causing more slips and things like that. You have a couple different options. You understand what the two I'm saying?
Well, the legislative option's not going to happen tonight.
No, it's not going to happen tonight.
So the options that are going to happen tonight is trees or lot. Those are the only two things that you're going to walk out the door with.
Yeah, well-
The trees are gone and the parking stays the way it is, or they can meet the parking
Then I
by
guess
ripping
I hope
down all
there's
the
another slip
areas.
up by that time the city has gotten moving on doing some legislative changes.
Let's just stick with
I'm
the.
I'm not helping you any. I don't want to see
All right.
the lot built where they're talking about. And I realize their predicament, and the only other was to say that they have to spend $1 million to fix the one that fell.
Thank you. Last chance, anything you want to say?
I think when you have a hardship on a, what I heard was a concern about setting a precedent. I think when you have a hardship in a zoning case, that's sort of case by case. So I wouldn't worry about the precedent. This is a specific
Right.
case with a specific solution.
Right.
It seems like the good thing to do to leave it as is, but you're correct. We need a decision. If not, we're going to go and use our property and use our rights to go put where we need to. And I
Yeah,
remember
and you know,
getting-
at one point you understood that there would be 856 spaces required, and
Yep.
you built it,
Yep.
actually. And now there is a slippage, and
That's my hardship, yeah.
and the hardship is to fix it, I guess. But
Right.
anyway, we'll discuss
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you. Any discussions among ourselves? Okay, motion?
I move in case 12-19V, 363 Richland Avenue, Zone R3. The appellant is requesting that we move to grant a variance for the appellant requesting a variance from Athens City Code 23.10 Table B off-street parking requirements to allow a multi-unit apartment complex to have 829 parking spaces where 856 parking spaces, or one per permitted occupant, is the minimum requirement.
A second.
Okay, practical difficulty and undue hardship. Because of exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes.
Well, I think the public purpose would be served if they had to utilize some of those buildings for other things and had less residents and therefore required less parking. So I'm not quite sure that.
Is there any hardship in here that,
I want to clarify, everyone keeps saying something, it's one building. Everyone keeps saying other buildings. That's one building up there.
Well, close down a block of
Well, I
a
just
building.
wondered-
I
everyone
said
keeps saying
residents,
some
but I did
buildings. I just
say,
want to
right, you
clarify,
are right,
it's one
it is
building.
one building. I stand corrected, sorry.
Well, the hardship can fall under the definition of the lay of the land and what it would take to fix such a thing in order to get the parking back the way it was.
you know, if in the first place, 3-4 years ago, there was no way that they could have put all these 856 parking spaces, at the time there was a hardship, but since they already built it, and at one point existed, so I don't see where the hardship would be to replace it.
Right, that was quite I see what you're saying, right? All the work that's gone into
Right, I mean, at one
topping the
point,
hill and moving the dirt around and creating the structure
Right.
and everything else that's up there.
there was not a hardship at the time, but now it is because of a slippage, and the slippage, to me, the way I understand, it's something that could be fixed, maybe thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, but nonetheless, I don't see the hardship. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone.
Well, now everyone has to meet the one bed, one parking rule.
And the condition of the property is it's very high on a hill.
Well, so is the apartment complex across the road.
This is true.
Is there any exceptional circumstances in this property that we should consider granting the variance?
Well, they built on a hill that's slipping. I don't know where you would put that on the spectrum of
Again,
exception.
going back at the time, there was no problem, right?
Well,
And no issue.
correct.
Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while granting of the required variance will not be confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and same vicinity.
Excuse me, John, before you guys go on, we're discussing a option here. If possible, one would be that the parking spaces be reduced in size to accommodate the number that are required.
Well, that requires another
Yeah, that'd be a
variance.
different variance, a different
Right,
rate.
Yeah.
but I mean, it's a suggestion to be
No.
thrown out, or,
No.
Not right now, I guess,
Well, why not?
yeah.
No.
Oh,
Well, there is a size that,
There's a size
there is the
required.
area
Well-
required for each space,
You gotta not bend this code, but we can bend this one.
Yeah, no, we're
That's
already
how you-
somewhere, so I think we need to maybe go forward.
And that could be another,
On the size, the minimum size.
Not tonight.
maybe next
you know.
month.
Does it gotta be-
No, because we have to prepare
gotta
to
be
come
posted.
here. We have to do a lot of investigation,
We
and
also
then all
have
of a
to
sudden to
announce-
throw us something new, I think is inconsiderate for
They
the
could
board
come back.
members.
But they could come back next month.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
And the public need to know also, because if they have any objections, they should be here, so.
Yeah, continue.
Okay, number 3, I guess we are okay on that. This does not apply to this specific piece of property. Minimum variance, the variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property.
It doesn't seem so.
Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. I don't,
Well, there's concern about the development of the parking lot and removal of the trees.
yeah.
And an adjacent property owner has,
But they're being asked for a variance for less parking, so, will the variance be a detriment to adjacent properties unless the overflow traffic would go over there because there's not enough parking? I don't know whether people would park on Greenbrier and jump the fence. But will it materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest? Perhaps by allowing the reduction of mandatory parking places. I think that is possible.
What about not of a general nature?
Well, it's of an annoyingly general nature in the sense that we hear these cases with some frequency and it's really it's like getting a legislative decision from the zoning board when people should need to get relief from the legislature, from city council. Something needs to be done about it. I mean, if the parking is really that much of a problem as it appears to be, then I don't understand why it's taking so long to get a fix for
I
that.
suggest that the zoning board propose a letter to the planning commission to have it investigated.
Okay, so we can move on.
Okay, are we ready for the vote? Mr. Rick Lobel.
I vote yes.
I vote no.
I vote no.
I vote yes.
And I would no as well.
So you want to do a sum of the, never mind.
Yeah. 3-1, we don't have the variance.
3-2.
3-2. Okay. Case number 3.
So they could come back. In some parking lots, they could make smaller spaces because there are some smaller cars. You know, those people with company on a Friday night or a Sunday afternoon. And there was a reason that they did that parking thing because of the apartment complex down on Shaker. Because people were afraid of the spillover traffic.
Okay, case number 3 is 1220V, Zone B1, 46 North Lancaster Street. The appellant is requesting a variance to allow renovation of an apartment building from 3 units to 5 units from ACC 2310 Table A, Schedule of Bulk Controls, to allow a rear setback of 25 feet where 40 feet is the required minimum, and from ACC 2310 Table B, Office Street parking requirements to allow 17 parking spaces where 18 parking spaces are required, and from ACC 23801A to allow 9 parking spaces with 162 square feet each in area where 180 square feet each in area is the required minimum. Senator Parker?
Just a brief history, Mr. Kassler renovated that building a few years ago and put second and third floors on the building and created apartments in the second and third floors and in the basement. On the first floor, that is the first floor facing North Lancaster, he left that open for business space, and there was a laundromat in there. Now he wants to change the area where that business space was into 2 apartments. That's requiring all the variances that are listed there.
This building went through some extensive renovation a few years ago, was it 4 or 5 years ago and so on. How come that rear setback was not addressed at the time?
When the building, it went through Title 41, it was one of the first ones that did. And when the building originally went through, being mixed use with business on the first floor, it was able to comply with the bulk controls of the B zone. And therefore, it met the bulk controls of the B zone, and the rear yard wasn't an issue. Now that the building is entirely residential, per our code, it can be that, it is a permissible use in this B zone, because it abuts a residential zone. But it must then meet the requirements of the least restrictive R zone that it abuts, which in this case is the R3 that it abuts to. So therefore, it has to meet the bulk controls of the R3 now that it is entirely residential.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for code office?
So that piece of property is residential? Or is it a transition, is it sitting in a transitional zone?
That piece of property is business in our code.
It's a B1 neighborhood business zone.
And it states in our code that residential use is any use permitted and as regulated in the residential district adjoining the B1 zone. And if there are adjoining 2 or more different categories of residence zones, the regulations of the least restrictive residence zone shall prevail. This actually abuts an R1 and an R, I think even an R2.
R3.
So R3 would be the least restrictive that the zone abuts, and therefore that's the guidelines that it has to, the bulk controls that it has to meet now.
So it doesn't have to have a business on the first floor?
It does not have to have a business, so the business is not the issue. The residential in the first floor is permissible, but again, it has to meet the regulations of that residential zone, which is R3 in this case.
And I think I asked this question earlier, and I want to make sure that it says the design of the parking area have been modified to provide the required parking and the space size. Is that issue still on?
The parking on the rear, the architect is here. I don't know if he's addressed that. If the plans that were submitted to me, they were 9 by 18. So they either have to be 9 by 20 or 10 by 18. And that may be something he's able to address and change, but I'll leave that up to him to answer.
Okay, thank you.
So will there be 3 or 2 apartments on the first floor?
There were 2, correct? 4 one-bedroom.
Oh,
4
4
one-bedroom units.
on the first floor.
Giving it a total of how many apartments in that unit? Instead of, it's kind of misleading as to how many.
3 to 5 units.
4 of them, 8 total.
Well, we'll wait till when you guys get in here and then we'll discuss.
And John, is the curb cut the 80 feet along Lancaster Street? Is that they want to eliminate that big
No, the
sweeping
curb cut, the
curb
80 foot is along Carpenter to the rear.
to the rear? That
To the
curb will
rear.
remain in the front? Along
The one in
Lancaster
the front
Street?
is all gone. They took that out when they renovated the project years ago. You've got an access on each end now.
Well, yes, but the access points on each end, that curb will remain?
Yes.
Right,
There is a
there's
curb
parking
there.
on both sides.
There's a curb that's been built, and the whole front parking lot would be coming out. The whole front, he'd have parking on the sides, if you look at that site plan, the whole front parking as it is shown right now, as it is built right now, would be removed. So to comply with the R3 regulations of no parking in the front yard.
Oh,
Right now, there's parking in the front yard, which is permissible in a B zone.
But isn't the parking in the front for the business?
Parking in the front on that building it was for both. But
There's some tenant
technically, you can
spaces.
count it as the business because there's
Right,
parking to the side.
because they had to have so many,
Right.
right, so technically the parking in the front was used by the business, but,
Well, there's 3 tenant parking only signs in the front.
Well, we said technically.
any further questions for the code officer? Okay, Mr. Valenture, are you representing?
Do you have drawings of this?
yes.
I have extra sheets here if anybody wants them. First of all, I'd just like to clarify that the parking spaces have all been...
Excuse me, would you please
Oh,
say
John
your
Valenture,
name and
RBC
address? We don't know you, but...
All right. I believe there was 3 items on the correction letter.
State your name and address.
I thought I just did. John Valenture, RVC Architects,
Okay, thank you.
131 West State Street.
Thanks.
I think, just to go through the refusal letter, first of all, the rear setback was 1 item, the parking spot sizes was another item, and the number. And then the 3rd item was the curb cut, which I don't think that's an issue that we talk about here today.
It's not in
Right.
here.
Now, the parking spot sizes and the number of lots have been modified to meet code.
18,
Yes, 18 parking spots.
and the size are?
They're either 10 by,
They meet codes.
So are-
10 by 18 or 9 by 20. See, hopefully you have that drawing that shows the modifications. I don't know if you've got that drawing or not, that shows the modified lot. And it also shows the lot coverage, which we meet now at 40%. We actually have over 40% of green space on this property and still maintain the parking spots that are required on the existing lot.
So all
You
we're
have that?
discussing is just the rear setback.
If
The
he
rear
was
yard
able-
setback is the only issue that I think that we need to discuss tonight.
If that's true. I mean, you didn't give me one with the revised. Let me see it.
Well, I mean, matter of fact, okay, irregardless of whether he's reviewed it or not, I know it's correct, so
Right.
we will not need to be, when we resubmit, that should be okay.
That is correct. If he's able to adjust that.
Well, I was just there this morning and I thought there could be, 18 space,
Right now, there's over 21 spaces on the site. That's because of the commercial required so
Right.
many more than the residential.
Right, but then the front would all be coming out, John, so you wouldn't,
right,
Right.
right.
and they had to accommodate in the back, in the rear.
You got one there still in the front, John, that would not be able to be there.
Pardon me?
Without a variance, this one here.
Right,
That one?
right.
You still
Well,
have one.
Here's a traffic light right here. And so you can pull in and pull
I could
out
get it on the
here.
back.
And as you're coming down the hill, you can pull in and pull out here. These are in the front, and then these are lined up in the back. It's hard to tell that.
Did they buy an Athens office supply building?
No.
4, 6, 8.
I don't believe so.
No, it's one,
That's-
two,
there's
three,
two-
four,
I'll go through here
five,
and
six,
talk
seven,
about this whole
eight,
site.
eight
Okay.
there.
Folks, let's listen.
Okay, John indicated that one of the parking spots I've got drawn, but again, I'm confident that I can handle all the parking spots that are required and stay within the main thing was staying within the 40% green space requirement that would now be required for this property if it's not business. It doesn't have a first floor business. And I think they've described it. The first level on the North Lancaster side was the laundromat. The lower level is apartments that's facing north or west Carpenter Street.
Okay.
And I think that what's relevant on this particular piece of property, and I think that John has alluded to it, that it has multi-fronts on streets. And if you go through the code and you read, technically that this property could be considered one that would have a double frontage lot. But talking over with John about that, it's not advantageous to us because if you say one side's the front and you say the other's the back, I've got setback problems one way or the other, whether it be towards Carpenter Street or towards Lancaster Street. So that, the fact that this is a double-fronted lot, I think, has some significance in terms of your reviewing this project, because there is technically no rear yard here. Even, like I indicated, the apartment on the lower level fronts onto Carpenter Street, while the rest of the building fronts onto North Lancaster Street. The request for this variance is in accord with the general purpose of the code. The intended use is permitted in this zone, and the structure will not be increased in area at all in terms of the modifications we're making right now. It stays the same size. But the site modifications will significantly increase the green space that's located at this site right now. Right now, there's very little green space, whereas if this project is allowed to go forward, we will increase it to 40%. Like I think you indicated, John, the whole front parking lot will be eliminated and it'll be turned into green space.
Right.
There will also be green space added to the rear or to the West Carpenter Street elevation as well, and at this time there's none on that elevation at all. The variance will not be injurious or detrimental to the public welfare. The request for the modifications of setbacks, given the location of the property and the interpretation of code, could be considered double frontage lot. The site is unusual due to that very island nature of this piece of property. It's bordered on three sides by public streets. This provides access from many different locations and makes it easier to accommodate the 40% green space. And it also creates problems with determining setbacks and the validity of setbacks in terms of rear yards and front yards on this piece of land. The requirements for this property would apply to other property in this zone. Well, there's two pieces of property that are actually in this B1 zone. This property and the one next door. The issue of the rear yard setback would be a concern for either one if this use was intended or asked for the other property as well. The variance will allow the property to be fully developed. The proposed use of the property is permitted, and the circumstances related to the lot and interpretation of the yard regulations is the reason for this appeal, essentially. That's the only reason that we're here, is that rear yard setback. The site has seen numerous modifications and changes over time. This modification, the modification of this use caused the site to be to conform with the least residential use, as John indicated earlier, in this case the R3. The bulk controls is the 40-foot rear setback. It would be a hardship to limit the use of the existing building based on code restrictions which cannot be applied to the site. The building is existing. We're not building a new building here, and the footprint is not being modified again. The variance would allow the property reasonable use of the building, and the proposed use for the facility is again in conformance with the code. The variance will not affect the supply of light or air to adjacent properties. In fact, we feel that allowing this project to continue will enhance the green space of this area and hopefully make it blend in even better with the neighborhood in terms of the residential uses around it. The proposed project will actually decrease the congestion on the site. The number of parking spots will be decreased, and the structure will actually have the upgrades that have been made on the property already have enhanced it in terms of the value of this property on this location. It's got a fully operational fire alarm system and a sprinkler system. All the utilities have already been upgraded, so there would not be any necessary to tear up any of the streets or to upgrade utilities from the city's standpoint by allowing this project to continue. The variance does not confer special privilege that would otherwise be denied in the same zone. Again, both properties in this zone have all the similar situations that relate to this setback issue. We feel that this would be an adequate or a good change or a good use for the property and make it fully developed right now. And if you wanted to talk to Bart Kassler, the owner, in terms of issues related to the commercial aspect of this property, which has been empty pretty much for most of the time that he's actually owned it.
Let's see if there's any questions for you from the board first. Yeah.
So, really, before we make a motion on the variance, we can eliminate the parking part.
Yes.
Oh, well, I'm
No,
not
I
sure
would-
we, no.
No, I would put it a condition so that they can verify it, you know? A condition that they have to have 18.
Well, if we don't have, if this is not accurate, I mean, he has one front parking place. As the board, we're here to look at the evidence and say, well, you have everything, and
No, if you
Mr.
make a condition that they have
They
to
meet
have
the
18 parking space with this size, then they can verify it when they get a chance.
oh, and who's going to follow up on that?
Well, they
Well, when
are.
they submit
the
to-
code.
Code office will.
The code will, so that we can just really deal with the setback issue in considering granting the variance,
Correct. That's what
is what I would like.
if I can't make it happen, it's not going to get through the code office again.
Right.
I was going to suggest that perhaps your suggestion of the condition that they have 18 parking spaces would be
Right.
extra, because he has to obey the law anyway.
Right,
Basically,
right.
making it a condition, he has to obey the law.
So that you guys have a chance to, you know,
Yeah.
verify.
He could
Sure.
reject the permit.
Yeah,
So that we will then
right.
eliminate that language.
Yeah.
No, we don't eliminate. We say with the condition
Right.
that they will satisfy 18 parking space with the 180
That they're
square
in
feet.
compliance with parking.
Right.
Yeah, but it's superfluous, like Paul said.
You don't need
It's
to say,
superfluous.
Yeah, you don't have to say.
You're basically saying, and as a condition, he has to obey the
we
law.
don't need to make a condition, we just need to
Right.
worry about the setback.
If he doesn't have the 18 parking spaces, it will be refused by
Right.
judge.
Okay, that's right.
So that's why,
Okay.
if I make the motion, I'm only going to read
Okay.
the setback.
Right.
Right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, do we want to hear do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add, but I can ask questions, answer questions.
Oh, okay. Anyone have any question for the?
Well, I guess I
owner?
do have a question I'll ask Mr. Valentour, but because this is a B1 neighborhood business district, and over the years, it had a very successful business in it, and many of the neighbors use that business as a convenient place to walk to or get other supplies. And when the laundromat was in there after Mr. Kessler purchased and added the addition of the apartments, several people in that neighborhood, I had a few phone calls actually use that laundromat, and they could walk rather than drive, and were very disappointed that it was closed. So if you did leave it as a business space and not turn it into rentals, we wouldn't be dealing with this this variance request for rear setback?
You're correct.
Okay.
But I think Bart might want to talk about the challenges of renting that space and the viability of it.
So I,
Please just state your name and address, please.
Bart Kassler, 46 North Line.
Thanks.
My wife and I owned and operated a laundromat for 3 years, 2.5 years. It was used gradually to the end of it. It just kept diminishing down to the point where it used to have a full-time attendant that would, help if change got stuck, stuff like that. It got to the point where we couldn't afford her full-time or a employee full-time, to the point where she was part-time, just came in the evenings and during our business hours. And even by doing that, it still didn't cash flow. And in my opinion, as a business owner, a commercial space being used as a laundromat is one of the last resorts for a commercial space. Mr. Meredith, I talked to him several times about opening up a convenience store because it's just something I thought would be intriguing. His words were to me, the only way that he made it happen throughout the years was because of he had the state liquor in there. And he said his opinion is that it won't work. There's not enough foot traffic. Also, it's a site that it's not like on East State where you can just pull off and pull right back on. It's an unusual site to pull in and pull out. They used to, in the 80s, they had a drive-through, and he said it was just a constant pain for people getting in and out of his parking lot. So any other businesses, I've had several realtors look at it, 4 probably, that have pulled in, looked in the windows, never called back. As far as a business in that space, the options have sort of ran out, and I can say that if someone came to me and said, I want to put a Joe's carryout in your space, I would say absolutely, because it would be no money out of my pocket. I wouldn't have to change the entire landscape. It's going to cost a lot of money just to get it to be 60/40 on the exterior of the building, let alone building the 4 interior apartments.
Okay. Any questions?
Just, one final thing, just remember too that, the use is permitted here, so we're just talking the setback is the issue, and the circumstances that are related to that setback, which are, I think, unusual in this case.
Right. You will have a chance again to come back. Is there anyone in here who wants to speak in favor of this proposal or this variance? Anyone wishing to speak in general comment? Or anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. You don't need to add anything more, right? Done. Okay, good. Discussion is closed on the floor. Any discussions, motions?
I move we grant a variance in case 12-20V, 46 North Lancaster Street. The appellant is requesting a variance to allow renovation of an apartment building from 3 units to 5 units from Athens City Code 23.10 Table A Schedule of Bulk Controls to allow a rear setback of 25 feet where 40 feet is the required minimum.
I second.
Okay, let's go through the findings. Practical difficulty and undue hardship.
Well, the little B1 property there with the 2 units on it is just a little island in itself. and very unusual in the city, and to try to develop that and meet code as it is today would create a lot of hardship and difficulty, I would think.
And
Well, the other thing is I guess I'm a proponent of B1 business districts and neighborhoods if we're moving to a more walkable type of community. And if you eliminate these, then you eliminate more access to those kinds of walkable types of neighborhoods. So I think that to leave it as a business and to continue to work on it, the fact that there is an apartment complex there that is, I'm assuming, occupied, and maybe it'll take a little longer to find something that would be more appropriate for that space, but we are, because of the peculiarity of the actual space, it's a peculiar space. Perhaps that's why it was intended to be a business area.
Right.
And so for a business area, it's not undue hardship, and it is still a business zone. So so I don't think that if it stayed as it was, we're not seeing a lot of undue hardship. So by trying to convert the first floor of that building into a residential unit, then you are indeed creating a hardship. But otherwise, if it stays as it is, no, you're not creating a hardship.
But it is a business that is standing empty, right?
That is correct. That is correct.
So that could be interpreted certainly as a hardship.
Well, it could, but there's a lot of businesses that stood empty, and eventually they found a niche, right?
There is no other business in that vicinity, so it's kind of the only one standing by
Well,
itself.
there's up at the top of the hill, it's an
Yeah.
oil change.
Well, that's
And
part
then
of
the
it,
building
yeah.
next door is...
Well, that's also empty, so.
Well, I know, they're getting ready to move out, so...
Okay, I guess we covered that part. We also, I think, covered the exceptional circumstances because of the layout of the land and so on. Preservation of equal property rights.
Yes, he has the property right to develop the property to its fullest potential, and that includes the residential space as well as a business space, whatever
Are
he
you
would choose to
conferring
put
more
in there.
privilege to this property than the one in the same vicinity?
No.
No.
Okay. Minimum variance?
He's not changing the footprint,
Right.
simply rearranging the bottom.
And Title 41, they said that they already had that taken care of before.
When the building was
but-
built, yes.
Yeah. Absence of detriment.
No,
Doesn't change anything.
I think it'll make that corner much more attractive than it ever has been.
And now that
Well, I will have to stop there because I don't think that's going to be the case. It's kind of difficult to interlay everything, but you are, I know we're meeting the guidelines for an R3, but I think the 40-foot setback is the same with an R1 and an R2. And so you're allowing a residential R3 to be crammed into an area that is abutting an R1, and there's various people in that R1 residential neighborhood that are now being crammed and in such close proximity. I mean, those distances are meant to give people a certain amount of space in residential areas. And so what you're doing is allowing, to the detriment of people in the adjacent areas, because they are not apartment complexes, and they are not, and they really deserve to have
Well,
a
I
certain
think
amount
the
of
variance
space.
is with respect to this real setback right now. I mean, would that be a detriment to this property? I mean,
I think so, yes, I think so.
Okay. Not of a general nature.
Yes, it's not.
Okay, we're going to start with you again.
I vote yes.
I vote no. I vote yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes as well, so we got 4-1. All right, we have two other order of business was disposition of the minutes from December 11th. You all have read the minutes?
Yes, I make a motion we approve the minutes as stated.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, approved. Also, this is the time that we select a new chair for the year. And first of all, I want to thank Ms. Betty Hanna for being the chair during 2012. She did a great job. She's a trooper. She always comes forward to help us out. And she wanted somebody else to, maybe take over, and everybody has a chance to contribute. So I was not a candidate for the chair, so I took the volunteer to coordinate this chair position for 2013. I'm pleased to say that we had a few people who actually were interested.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to withdraw my name.
Sir, you are?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, we have to wait till next month to discuss this further.
Okay.
John, I thought in my papers in here that we did this in February anyway. I know that the attachment that you sent was...
As in January, but it says in here, selection of chairperson. Usually we have done it in either January, and if we could,
Because I
we
thought
have done it.
Betty said February too, so
Yeah.
I was just asking.
So anyway, we did have a candidate, and now it's withdrawn. So we'll wait till next month to have further discussions on it. Okay.
Meeting adjourned.
Motion to adjourn? To adjourn?